And I can't think of a better place to be than our lovely Newcastle Golf Club. Can't be the view we expect that. Thanks to our team of caterers tonight. They have put together an impeccable spread. Everything looked so yummy. I was able to refrain from the brownies, but that's usually not me. It's just not my personality to ignore a brownie, but oh well. So tonight we're gathered here for the Newcastle Town Hall. We haven't done this since 2019. So welcome. Thank you for attending. We're also live streaming this tonight on YouTube. All right, let me go over tonight's agenda. Tonight's agenda is pretty brief. I'm going to be up here going over our presentation for about 40 minutes or so. And tonight's presentation is on the pandemic revenue recovery investment update. It'll be what we've done, where we're at, and where we need to go. We'll have plenty of time for audience questions. And I'll have somebody out on the floor with a microphone, migrating from one side to the other. I'll explain a little more about that as we get closer. And then we'll come back up here to the podium and just have some closing comments. As I mentioned, we're up here at the Newcastle Golf Club. I'm not sure if he's in the room. I've seen him throughout the night. The general manager, Raleigh Leonard, he is in charge up here. And I actually had a great opportunity to meet with Raleigh last week, and we sat down and had a great conversation under a beautiful sunshiny afternoon, which turned to hail, which turned to rain, and we both got drenched walking out to our vehicle, which was parked relatively close. But oh well, welcome to Seattle. Hey, guess who's hiring around town? Most of our businesses. If you have any kids or grandkids looking for a summer job, please encourage them to look local. There's no commute there. They don't have to pay any fuel costs. We're all paying that right now, so we can not worry about that when our son or daughter goes out looking for a job. And guess what? Up here, Raleigh shared with me that he offers his team free golf. So look at that. You can't beat that. Tonight we have we have all of our council members here. I'm going to give them a minute or two to introduce themselves. First of all, my name is Linda Newing. I've been on the city council. This is my 7th year. I've lived in the city for 20 years nearly, just shy of that. And I will ask Deputy Mayor Ariana Sherlock to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. Great to see all your faces. I'm Ariana Sherlock. I have been on council since 2020, so it's mostly been a pandemic for me, but can you hear me better? Really lovely to see everyone in person, so thank you. I moved here with my husband and one child in 2013, and then about 2 weeks later, our second child came out. So we have enjoyed Newcastle, raising our kids here, and I live in the Hazelwood neighborhood.
Well, I didn't prepare your cue cards tonight, but Councilmember Griffin.
My name is Tom Griffin. I've lived in the city since 1978. My background is a CPA. I'm a current licensed state certified accountant. A couple of words on how the city comes off the ARPA money. Two years ago, when I was serving on the finance committee, we were discussing how we might be eligible for ARPA money. And this was for the city. This was funds that the city was short in the pandemic. And so we did qualify for the city funds. And unfortunately, we spent $908,000 of it for this year's budget, balance of budget. So we're going to talk about that. So I hope everybody an understanding of what we're doing. Take it, comment.
Councilmember Villas Senior.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Crystal Senior. 17-year resident of Newcastle. Family and I. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know that it's difficult for people to carve out time to participate in their local government, and I'm really appreciative that we see so many people here tonight. So thank you, and I look forward to tonight's discussion.
Councilmember Lakotia.
Good evening, Newcastle. My name is Pratima Lakotia, and I've been living in Newcastle for over 8 years, just close by in Reserve. And, I joined the council because I was inspired by this quote by Mahatma Gandhi. It says, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And here I am to serve the people of Newcastle. I have a background in finance and analytics, and when I was, I went out to my voters and I promised them that yes, I will join the council because I will analyze every dollar of your tax dollars that is being spent, and I will not shy away from asking questions, and that's what I have been doing here. And what I believe is make decisions on facts and having a transparent and accountable government, and that's what I am striving in the council. So thank you for coming.
Councilmember Charbonneau.
Hello, everyone. Paul Charbonneau, you have pronouns. I've lived in Newcastle since 1999. When I was 2, when my parents moved here, my mom, she's in the back. And I'm just a massive political nerd, worked in public policy nerd. And I'm really grateful that I get to do this work. I've been serving on council for about 5 months now. I'm really excited to serve on a few different regional committees and represent our city in that way. And we'll get into a lot more of the other fun questions here shortly.
All right, Councilmember Clark.
Thank you, Linda. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Clark. I'm a brand new council member. I've been on the council since January. A couple of us have. I've been in Newcastle for 16 years. Been here with my beautiful bride, my boss. She's in the back row, so I got to behave tonight, right? She's watching me. I ran for the council. I ran for the council because I wanted to make a difference, because I wanted to help the community. I wanted to make sure we're a sustainable community for the future, fiscally responsible community. So I bring a lot of experience to that. I'm an engineer. So I'm an engineer. I work in West Seattle, and electrical engineer. I've been 23 years today is my hire date in West Seattle at Newport Steel. So a lot of experience as an engineer, a lot of experience with budgeting and finance, and I want to bring that to the council. I'm also a veteran, which is really important to me, and I've been putting out a periodic newsletter, and I'm trying to get a sense of who in the community is a veteran, because I think it's really important that we honor our veterans. So that's something that's really important to me. I'm a VFW American Legion member, and I really would like to know if you're a veteran, come up and see me afterwards, and let's talk about it. I really want to recognize you. And through my work, where I work at the steel mill, I'm very proud to be part of a national program that works with the Gary Sinise Foundation to raise money for severely wounded veterans. So it's really near and dear to my heart. Love veterans. I'd like to talk to you afterwards if you have an opportunity. Thank you. I look forward to your questions and interacting with you. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet everybody in the meeting, but I'd love to meet you all.
We can get that microphone troubleshooted, and maybe in the interim, you and Councilmember Charbonneau could share a microphone. That would be great. All right. So moving on. First of all, I'd like to recognize some very important people with us tonight, and I apologize. Please flag me down if I have overlooked anybody. But in the audience, we have Representative Thomas Sen. Welcome. And we have Representative Mylan Tai. Welcome. And in a few minutes, I'll talk about some very incredible and important work they did for the city of Newcastle this year during our legislative session. And we simply cannot say enough words of thanks to them. In addition, tonight, I want to recognize a person who just retired from volunteering in the city of Newcastle on the Parks Commission, which ultimately became the Community Activities Commission. Diane Lewis, you were a member of that commission for 20 years. That is unbelievable, and we can't thank you enough for your dedication. Can you wave to the crowd at least? Shaking her finger at me because I didn't forewarn her that I was going to recognize her service tonight. But I think it's very important not only to recognize our long-term volunteers, but all of our volunteers. So if there are any more and I know there are more volunteers out here in the audience. I know many of you. Thank you for your service to the city, to your organizations, and what you do every day to make Newcastle great. So one of the investments the city council chose to do last budget session was to invest in the services of a lobbyist. We haven't had a lobbyist for a number of years. So last fall, we hired Gordon Thomas Honeywell. And through their efforts, a total of $30,000 or approximately $30,000 by the end of this year will be invested in services of this lobbyist. Guess what, Newcastle? Thanks to their efforts, working very hard and diligently with Representative Sen, Representative Ty, Senator Wellman, the city of Newcastle received grant funds totaling $151,100 for the Lake Warren viewing dock and fishing dock repair and replacement, and also the historical cemetery fencing that will be replaced. Further protecting that jewel that we have here in Newcastle of historic history. That's a net of $121,100. So $121,100. Thank you, Representatives and Ty, for your service. Before moving on and introducing our Master of Ceremonies this evening, I am sure all of you have noticed we have a little poll up here tonight. We're currently recruiting for a city manager who will be succeeding 12-year veteran city manager Rob Wyman, who left in May. We currently have an interim. However, our interim city manager, Bob Larson, had a previously scheduled period out of town that conflicted with tonight's event and could not be here tonight. Mr. Larson will return next Tuesday, I believe it is. And I encourage you, if you're out in the park and when we have our upcoming summer events, please stop by and meet him. He's just a very kind individual. He's here to hold the ship down along with our amazing team of directors and staff. And but unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. So our Master of Ceremonies is another Newcastle volunteer, Nathan Sticks. Thank you. Nathan is our Vice Chair of our Community Activities Commission. He has served on the commission for 3 years. He has been a Newcastle resident for over 33 years. I apologize because I didn't turn my page. So Nathan will be migrating from one side of the room to the other to take our questions tonight. And before we break into questions, we will go over the procedure for that. I also wanted to go back a little bit on the city manager, the status of the search. The application deadline just passed, and we received 11 applications. They are currently being reviewed by our recruiting consultant, GMP Consulting. And we expect to have a short list to review. I said a full council toward the end of the month or early July, the city will be offering a community meet and greet for the applicants. And you can look for that to happen about mid-July. And we anticipate interviewing the third week of July as the schedule is laid out right now. That could all shift, but that's kind of the timeline. And I strongly encourage you to watch our website and check out or subscribe to, if you haven't already, to the Newcastle e-newsletters. And they're published every other week, I believe. Okay, now, in addition to more special people we have in the audience, we have a wonderful, amazing team of our staff. I'm going to kind of let them introduce themselves. I'll start with Director Thorpe, who's actually retiring in August. And we'll give him the top billing tonight in honor of his retirement. And I have Nathan with the microphone, so he's happy to hand that to you.
Well, anyway, I am Steve Langsdorff. I'm currently the community development director of the city. And Mayor Dean mentioned I'll be retiring in August. And I have to say, I couldn't pick a better city in my career. This is a great one. And I want to share one thing in my day. When I first started with the city of Newcastle, I walked into the city council chambers. We had a staff meeting, all staff, we're all sitting in the back of the room. I could not believe that that's all we had. That all those few people were doing the work of Newcastle. And to me, that's the miracle. And this has been just a great staff to work for, a great council to work for, a great mayor. And so I just want to let you know that this is a great city. And I'm honored to work with you. I'd like to say hello to those of you that maybe know me. Please stop by for the leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's go to our community, or our communications coordinator, Kate Langsdorff.
Hi, I'm Kate Langsdorff. I'm the communications manager, and I've been with the city of Newcastle for just over a year. And I'm very pleased to be working for all of you. Thanks for being here this evening.
And City Clerk Paul White.
Thank you very much. So I am Paul White, I'm the city clerk. I've been with Newcastle for just over 2 years. And as the city clerk, I manage the city's records management program. I make sure that records are accessible and help to support a legislative process for council, among other things. So if you're ever up over at City Hall, just come by and say hello.
Right. Remember all that snow we had in December, right after our Christmas holiday? We have our maintenance manager, technician, maintenance manager, I always mess that up, Connor, in the audience as well. So welcome, Connor.
I'm Connor Simonson. I'm the infrastructure maintenance manager here, and I've been here just under 5 years.
Okay, and up front, we have our human resources, risk management. She does it all, including organized our wonderful buffet out there, Sarah Jacobs.
So I'm Sarah Jacobs. I am the HR and Risk Management Director. I've been here a little over 13 years.
Our finance director is unable to be with us tonight, but Don Palmer has been with us for, what, 6 years? Yeah. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Public Works Director and the man of many hats, Jeff Bruns.
Okay, so multiple hats here. So yes, so my introduction, Public Works Director Jeff Franz. I've been with the city since 2015. So going on my 8th year, I believe. So now I'm going to transition to helping you do a practice survey. So we're going to do some online polling tonight. So if you all saw a sheet on your chair, that's the little prep work. It's also on the screen, so there's 3 ways to do this. You can go to on your phone, go to pollev.com/Newcastle. You can scan that QR code, and yes, it does work from the back of the room, you just need to zoom in. Or, for those of you that would rather just go old school and text, you can do that too. If you want to do that, you just send a text in the to field, you put 22333, and then in the body, you type Newcastle. And then it'll come back and say, hey, great, welcome to the poll, and we're ready. So, and while you've got your phone in your hand, please make sure it's on mute or silent. So, okay. So, this interactive polling, it'll show up on the screen. It'll also show on your phone. So you can follow up front, or you can follow on your phone. So, oh, yes. And if you need help, if you have some technical challenges, maybe you lean over to your partner. If your partner's challenged, maybe raise your hand and somebody will try and help. Okay. So, let's do a couple of practice questions. Oh, there you go. See? What is your zip code? See?
Look at that.
Oh, this is much more interesting when we practice it on forms. So we've got 70. Okay. So we'll let that settle down. Some people are jumping, like maybe people aren't sure where they live. Wow. What's your zip code? All right. Let's move on to a more challenging one. How long have you been a resident? So you can either, if you're on a smartphone, you can just pick the one that matches your answer, or if you're texting, you just pick A, B, C, or D. Does that work for everybody? Okay. All right, we've got 95. Okay, people are more sure about how long they live here than their zip code. So it looks like over 20 years. Yes. All right. There's no wrong answer. Okay, so this one gets a little trickier. I tried to do pictures, but it wouldn't quite work. So, do you live in a house that you own, a house that you rent, that's A and B, or what us civil engineers call multi-family housing, which would be an apartment or a condo or a townhouse that you own, which is C, or an apartment, condo, or townhouse that you rent, which is D. So we've got a clear winner here. Oh, looks like I forgot to put the count up there. All right, very good. Decisive win for the homeowners. And 50-50. Did you vote in the last election? Well, this is great. We got a lot of civic-minded people here tonight. 86. 94. Can we get 100? 98? 99? All right, 101. Yes, winner. Okay. This last one's a really fun one. And it's very small letters, and I'm sorry. So, restaurant, any place you get food other than Safeway QFC is on the list. So it's alphabetical, well, that's our list. Basically, look at your phone. I'll read those off if you're texting. It's alphabetical. Aji sushi is A, Racing Eddie is B, Calcutta Grill is C, JDC that matches up pretty well. And then we jump to Jitsi Pizza is D, Jersey Mike's is E, Local Sean is F, McDonald's with a clear 0 is G. Oh, there we go. There we go. Got a big bag, lover. Hot Pizza is H, Subway is I, Tapatio is a clear Mike's favorite with J. A's Kitchen, A, and A's Walk is L. So great, looks like everybody has a hang of how to do the polling. So we'll come back to this, some Barbara questions and then some discrete questions. So I will turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Director Bronze. I think we probably need option number 13 on there for the restaurants. It's all of the above. So now we're on to the business section of our program tonight. We want to have a review with our public about Newcastle's investment options for pandemic revenue recovery. Some people refer to that as the ARPA funding, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. But this is actually revenue recovery funds that we were allocated by the federal government through the state. So City Council has had this topic on their agenda for the past 6 meetings. We've talked about it for 3 months. It's very intense. We have managed to come up with some, a list of what we believe would be best uses and best investments in the community. But we need a little more information. And that's where you can help us tonight, because there'll be more questions, because you did so well on round 1. So initially, we went out and we conducted surveys with businesses and residents. And that was conducted by Management Partners, our consultant, last fall. So a total of $1.9 trillion was allocated by the federal government, not all to Washington State, and certainly not all to Newcastle. Darn it. $130 billion was received in our region, and Newcastle was awarded $3.4 million of that allocation. The City Council, like I said, talked about this for a number of months, and we've whittled it down to basically 4 pots of money with a lot of subcategories. Those fund areas are direct financial assistance, which could be used as grants to our brick and mortar restaurants, community groups, and those who were directly impacted with revenue loss during the pandemic. Another group is building community. That would be improving our amenities, such as parks, trails, and events. Economic development initiatives is another area we focused on. What can we do to retain our businesses? What can we do to attract new businesses? Again, all of this is continually seeking improvements for our city. We also talked about city infrastructure and investments. Are they infrastructure needs and investments that we can close the funding gap? So these are things we're going to review and take a deeper dive in tonight. As of tonight, Newcastle has $2.4 million of these funds to allocate. 891. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. 881,000 was used to restore city revenues at the end of 2021. So the 4 groups here are listed once again, and the potential investment areas on the short list are direct financial assistance, which would be our brick and mortar grants type thing, building community, economic development, and city infrastructure investments. So taking a deeper dive into these, the direct financial assistance would be business and community group grants like we discussed, or I mentioned earlier. Building community could include senior and youth programs, perhaps making some investments that would create initial investments with the business or grants with the business so they can create sustainable programs. Opening outdoor gathering areas, improving them, the amenities, parks, trails, our playgrounds, making them safe. Next category, economic development, marketing. How can we help our businesses get the word out? If you remember early in the pandemic, we created Newcastle to Go and Newcastle Marketplace through a partnership with the chamber that immediately allowed our restaurants and businesses to pivot to online pickup, delivery. Small business technical assistance. Like I mentioned earlier, our businesses are having trouble hiring. There are cities in East King County who have created programs that will bring in assistance to the businesses they can partner with to create, to attract staff and team members so they can continue to serve the public and not run their existing staff, ragged with a bunch of hours. Downtown improvements, we've talked about wayfinding signs and more advertising. So as people, the bypass traffic will bring people into the community, cause them to stop for dinner, to shop, to work out. City infrastructure and investments, city facilities maintenance. In 2015, the city purchased the annex from the utility provider here in the community, the Coal Creek utility. That was their old building. That building is severely dilapidated on the inside, and it needs a little TLC on the outside as well. The elevators need some repairs, the carpet, just so it's clean, it's functional, and it meets the needs of the staff who work out of there every single day. City fleet and equipment. Do we need to look at more economical vehicles? Maybe something that's more modern technology rather than all fuel, or are there other models we can go with for vehicles and equipment? As you know, we operate a tremendous amount of equipment out there outside of the city vehicle. Our parks and our maintenance team, they're out there with a whole array of vehicles. So we do this more efficiently. So now we are coming up to more questions. How can we how can we capture what you're thinking tonight about the best investments for these funds? So I see yes, sir.
Before we go into deciding how we're going to spend the money, can you talk about which areas were hardest hit by the pandemic?
Well, we can do that now for sure. So as I mentioned, our business community was heavily hit. They were limited to how they could conduct business. It was online. It was via delivery. The city of Newcastle actually, got a little bit of reward because of everyone was ordering online and all that tax was coming to the city. But primarily it was our brick and mortar businesses. Schools remained open and functioning. They had some revenue losses as well, but we don't feed their revenue. Our youth programs that serve Newcastle communities, like the Newcastle baseball, the Skyhawks, they were unable to operate because of the shutdown. So they had revenue loss from teams. Parks and trails were improved and maintained as they typically would be because people were cautious about gathering, about being too close to each other. And if you recall, in the early days of the pandemic, that even pertained to outdoor settings. We were all wearing a mask indoors and out.
Thank you.
And we'll reserve questions until we get to the question component. These funds were meant to invest in the community, basically, one-time programs, not something that is regularly sustained, like regular maintenance services. These funds are things we can use to build a better community, to allow our, maybe new programs in the business community, help them with some grant money, and also be able to provide amenities, nice, improved parks, improved trails. Lake Boren, we received a $500,000 grant for improvements in Lake Boren as a result of an application we submitted based on our Lake Boren master plan that was approved about 5 years ago. And this is a great opportunity to partner with that grant using the recovery funds to further move that plan along, rather than, as somebody who started out with that plan working on or volunteering on a community activities commission, I actually was a participant interviewing a consultant who developed that plan. And I always committed to myself in the city, I wouldn't allow that plan to be thrown on a shelf and collect dust. And this is an opportunity to put that plan in action and improve our biggest crown jewel and most popular park, Lake Boren.
We can't hear the question.
Yeah, we can't hear the question. Okay, let's just. Yeah, we'll hold questions until the end, okay? So we'll go back to questions. So thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm going to actually ask a member of the finance committee to touch on these a little bit further. They've been doing a lot of work in finance committee as well. So Deputy Mayor Sherlock, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So to add to what the mayor presented, the way that, so I feel like maybe we've all been talking about this for a long time, and it sounds like everyone else isn't quite up to speed on the process of where we've gone and where we are. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? So let me just add to what was presented. What happened was, you all know ARPA was passed. from the federal government. And so we have this money that is available to our community, to invest in our community. And the Finance Committee has been discussing this from the very beginning. How do we do this in the best way for Newcastle? So first what we did was we hired a consulting firm to help us because there are so many rules and regulations when something comes from the government, right? So we have a small staff and we didn't have a staff member that was available to put all the energy into that. So that's why we invested a little bit of that money to help us navigate all these rules. Those people, those consultants, did a community survey, which I hope a lot of you participated in. They also did a business survey, and they gathered a lot of data for us as the council to put together all of these buckets that we're discussing. So these didn't just come out of nowhere. There was a lot of data and research and reaching out to the community to get to this point. And then since then, that group has been presenting to the council, and we've been discussing the options that they've been presenting to us under the rules and regulations that this money is available to use. So that's why we're asking about these different buckets. Does that make sense? Does that answer some questions?
I guess the frustration is, it looks like you've already spent $880,000 on the general budget, and you're asking us how we should spend the remaining $2.4 million, when I think a lot of people in the room are feeling like, maybe we should save that money, because if we needed it this year, we might need some of that next year and in the following years. And just spending it, I mean, I'd love to spend it on this stuff, if everybody would, but it's got to, there's concern that we're looking at how do we spend this money, how fast can we spend this money versus we want to save this money or invest it in something like paying down the city hall or something like that.
Yes, I hear you. And so we have been talking about all of the options. And yes, you're correct that some of this money was used to balance the budget for this current year, because that was part of the rules that we were able to use for revenue loss. Now we have the remaining money, and that's why we're coming to you all to have more of a conversation of, are we heading in the right direction? Now, I will say that personally, and other council members will have other opinions, but investing this money in our community right away, it might sound a little bit scary, but that is why we have access to this money, is to help with pandemic relief. That's the purpose of this money. It's really important to remember that we all as taxpayers have put our taxes into this money from a national standpoint. And so we should use this money in the spirit in which it was given. And that's why we're coming to you to talk about investing in our community. Now, yes, you're correct that we may have some issues with our specific budget in Newcastle. This money was not meant for that. However, there are ways. However, there are ways to use it in a way that invests in our community and has a return on an investment, not just putting it away for a rainy day or balancing the budget one time. We've been discussing really exciting, interesting ways to invest this into our community that will actually create more money for our community in the future. And that's what I'm excited about. And I really would love to share
which options will bring about a return on investment, because investment is normally done to get return on it. And in the city, with our financial problems, I would expect to see not these buckets only, but in each one of them, what is the potential revenue this is going to bring long term, and how that will amend our problems with finance right now.
That's a great question. I will tell you, real honest, this money, it's not gonna fix all of our problems. It's just not, it's not enough to fix everything. But we can use what we have in the best way possible to at least start working on our problems. And that's
And also, I think it's a big paradigm shift since we have the pandemic. You know, there are so many things that is unpredictable, right? You know, the impact of resources. If someone is sick, there are a whole slew of people that can do work, right? Family impacted. The economy is different. You know, retiring based on income is worse because of all of that that's being impacted. So more so, I think we have to be very confident on how we do this, be conservative, and put some on a reserve. I think we might not have to put everything down to the budget, but I think it's better to be safe for the next few years than we did on something that is not a high priority, that is really out, but not essential.
okay. I'm gonna thank you for that. I'm gonna turn it back to the mayor.
Can I just add, since I'm also part of the finance committee, I just wanted to add that the rules, when the ARPA came out, the rules changed after that because a lot of things changed, right? We're sitting on an 8.5% inflation. So ARPA doesn't have a time limit. This money doesn't have a time limit. So, and this money doesn't have any rules where it needs to be spent. The government got away with the rules. So there is no time limit and there is no rules. So we don't need to rush on it. That's an issue. Let's analyze each and every project, and as one of our gentlemen said, no rules. Technically the city for audit purposes, just for audit purposes, on paper, we've already spent the money, we've taken it as a revenue loss, just for audit purposes. So this money has, it's already in our books. So we do not have, rules of how we need to spend. So this money can also be put on reserve, and we can take our time to decide. And as our gentleman over there said, return on investment, yes. We should look at return on investment, which we technically don't do here. So, it's up to you. You guys can decide, should we wait on it? Should we think through it? Or should we, So technically, no time limit.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on.
Eight of the 9 options were described, but the 9th one, which I think is of greatest interest, was not touched on. That's item H, fiscal sustainability. Can someone explain that?
Yeah, the fiscal sustainability option is using it, what we've done so far with the money that we've already allocated was using it for revenue loss purposes. And so that is continuing to do that. That's what that means.
Okay, so we're going to move on. The Chamber of Commerce is not involved in this, but. All right, so, no, so we're going to move on.
If we could just move on, I've got kids at home. Go look at that. Yeah, I like why is it, but I like why is it not saying on this list? Hey, I want you to.
Okay, excuse me.
You know what? Let them talk. Let them talk. We can find out.
Watch it sit down.
We're going to move on. So a lot of what was brought up, that information is contained in the questions as options. So moving on to the questions. Question number 1, and you see the buckets up there. Thinking of these 4 categories: the direct financial assistance, the building community, economic development, and city infrastructure investments. Prioritize these areas how you believe the city should be using these funds.
I will say none.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry, why are we doing this? There are people that have it.
If you have a question, someone can help you. If you raise your hand, we'll have someone come help you. It's evening out. Okay, moving on, question number 2, it's a multiple part question. Considering each of the 9 options that were listed, you can read those off again. Select the top 3 you believe the city should use its ARPA funds to invest in. Those were business and community group grants, senior youth programs, outdoor gathering areas, economic development marketing, small business technical assistance, downtown improvements, city facilities maintenance, fiscal sustainability, and city fleet and equipment. Select the 3rd priority you believe the city should use its ARPA funds to invest in. Slowing down. Okay. Some technical issues out there. Oh no. I have to keep going. Okay, now we are back to some lighter questions. Have a little bit more fun, like be creative. Okay, question number 1, community input. In one word, what do you see as the community's strengths? Yes, you need to type your word in. We love our wildlife here in Newcastle, don't we? It's great, great things in there. Walkability, natural affairs. And we do love our wildlife. Wildlife, bears. We love our police. By the way, I forgot to allow Chief on the opposite side of the room, and he's blending in with the door. So Chief, my apologies and welcome, and thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. All right, that's I love that. Fitness. All right, next question in one word. What do you see as the greatest challenge we face as a community? It could be the Bears. We hope that's not happening. No fireworks show. Sustainability, equity, engagement, maintenance. Moving on. What should the city council focus on in the coming 12 to 18 months? Okay, one word. This one's posing a little challenge for us, so bear with us. Staffing. Right. Transportation. So really tough compromise. Okay, this one's a little bit more global. You'll see a list of city services that are currently provided. Some of them are mandated, some are the the amenities and the nice to have. So our question number 4 is, how would you rate the city's performance in delivering these services to the community? Excellent, good, satisfactory, needs improvement, unsatisfactory. The basic services, so fire and emergency services, police, emergency planning and response, city parks, trails and open space, transportation infrastructure, stormwater management, solid waste code enforcement, city communications, development regulation, permitting and inspection, recreation programs and special events, sustain environmental quality, arts, culture, and heritage programs. Okay, looks like we're evening out. All right, as I mentioned earlier, we will be inviting the community to continue to follow the hiring of our new city manager and the recruitment process that includes community opportunities to meet our applicants, our candidates. And the way to get that information is watch our website, sign up if you haven't already for our email newsletter. You can also reach out to the city council using the group address of citycouncil@newcastle.gov. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter, of course. Follow us on social media, Facebook and Twitter. And let's not forget, if you see a problem out there, a sign down, a big pothole, something that shouldn't be happening out there, go to See Click Fix and report that. And we love pictures when you report things, don't we, Director Bronze? All right. Now we're going to move on to our audience question component. We have Nathan out here with a microphone, right here. Nathan is going to, please raise your hand. Nathan will hold the microphone for you. He's going to move from side to side. He is going to stop along the way, so even though you may have your hand up before this person here, he will get to you, I promise. And we have until about 8:25.
Yes. And he's saying that we have to spend it in the spirit of how it's given. What is that supposed to mean? Because that's pretty vague. And I'd like to know why we are saying that when we're in a financial situation in our country.
Do you want me to answer? Okay.
You don't want that referring to people spending. We're in a whole new pocket.
I think that, okay, so I think that is an interesting question, because I think there's a misperception that we're trying to spend this $2.4 million as fast as we can. That's not the truth. The way that we've been discussing it, and my personal perspective on it, is that there may be a need in our business community to help them bridge themselves out of the pandemic. And I think that is money that we might consider spending soon. But to Councilmember McCoke's point, she's correct, that we have already processed that the ARPA money, and now it sits in our cumulative reserve as marked as pandemic relief funds. And we can spend that any way we'd like, that is true. But I think that from my perspective and discussions we've had in the finance committee, that it's important that we at least investigate all the options we have to spend it in the spirit that it was given, that the federal government wants to use that money. The R stands for rescue, and that's how we should first look at this money. But correctly, we do not have to spend that money today, tomorrow, and the next day. We can hold on to it, and that's part of what we're doing here tonight, is collecting that information so that we can start looking at priorities with that money But you're right, we're not looking to spend it, we're not looking to spend that money tomorrow. It's not very much.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So my son builds all these types of projects for Las Vegas, for Phoenix, for huge metropolitan areas with a lot bigger budget than ours. And I know for a fact that the construction costs have gone up astronomically. Why are we spending it now when we have astronomical costs to do construction? Concrete's gone up like 60%, wood's gone up 80%, labor's gone up because we have a lack of it. There's delays on every project. Look at Seattle, what they're seeing, concrete projects they have going in delays. We are throwing a lot of money on top of a high budget when we can get a better return in a year or a year and a half from now when everything starts to settle back down. But right now, it's not a good time to be spending it. We'll get more return for the money.
Well, and we actually have a room full of people, so we need to also entertain other
Why are we not saving it to spend it later? Keep it in reserve and spend it when we're going to get better returns.
So we are looking at a lot of options. I want to say that putting it in reserve is not giving us any return on our investment. We have a lot of money in reserve right now. Councilmember Charbonneau has really highlighted the options that actually have potential return on investment. I would love for him to elaborate on those.
Thank you for your questions, Sharon. Thank you for sharing your expertise as well. So something I've really been advocating for, and I apologize for this, it's not as clear up there. So we have $2.4 million to use. Two things I'm really trying to hammer on is economic development. I don't like the fact that we have any storefronts. I don't like the fact that we're not, having as much of a vibrant community as we could. When we look at what is sort of this idea of keeping our budget, keeping us fiscally sustainable, we can talk about our own costs, but we also need to look at our revenue. And our revenue is part of that equation. I think personally, we have a city that thousands of people drive through each day. If you look at our proximity to Boeing headquarters, T-Mobile, Amazon, Microsoft, we have thousands of people driving through the middle of our city. We don't have any signage. We're not leveraging that. We're not getting people to stop in our city and spend money. So that is something I would like to do. So downtown improvements, that is what that is referencing. That is, it was not very clear. $100,000 is what I'd be interested in there for signage to get people to stop in the city. It's not that much of the general $2.4 million. Additionally, something we're looking at with small business technical improvements. There's a group that already does this. There's the framework for this. This would help some of those businesses bridge the gap and help them get out there so that they can continue to be a business and not be a vacant lot and continue to generate revenue for the city. Both those options together would be less than $250,000. I think it's even a little bit less than that. I apologize for not having the numbers right now. So those are two economic development things I'm trying to harp on. We used to have an economic development committee internally for our city council. We don't anymore. I would love to see it happen again, but those are two items that I think I'm trying to invest. I'm trying to be proactive so that we get a return on our investment and sort of.
So I got a question for us to address. What do you foresee this as going? Is that what you built this for, like building village?
I think I'll talk more before after.
What did you say?
I'm not going to talk more after.
Another question? Okay, I wanted to, Tamara Canine from Olympus, former council member. I wanted to talk about fiscal sustainability and which means our survival as a city from a financial standpoint. And in 2019 and 20, we hired management partners, and they gave us two deliverables. They gave us a model to look at our financial capability and sustainability in terms of revenues versus expenses for 6 years out. And then they gave us an implementation plan, which had one item for cost reduction and 3 items for generating additional revenue. The major additional revenue in that plan was a utility tax. Now, we voted on that in November of 2020, And 59% of our citizens said, no, we don't want a utility tax. And I don't believe that meant we don't ever want a utility tax. I believe that meant we want to see the council manage the budget and manage the spending before we add new revenue. So my question is, number one, what are we as a council doing to look at efficiencies and ways to reduce our costs? What we've been doing is, since that time, since we went down in terms of the vote, we've been spending more. We just spent $881,000 more of ARPA funds on the budget. So rather than reducing, we've been spending more. I'd like to know what we're going to do to look at reducing our spending overall. And I also want to know why we're not still using the model that was developed for us to look at, in terms of our assumptions, where we're going to be in 6 years, and look at adding, subtracting, not adding headcount, that type of thing. And also, how are we going to have our 7-member council work well together as a team to address these issues?
Who would like to respond to that question? Councilmember Clark?
Sure, I'll take it.
Go ahead.
So thank you for the question, right? I'll start at the end, right, where you want to left off, right? Okay, how about that? Here you go. All right, thank you. Thank you, Tamara, for that question. I'll start at the end, right? Because we've seen here tonight and everybody's kind of shouting one answer or the other, that there's a big divide amongst all the people about what we should do, and that divide exists on our council as well, right? There's no secret that people vote for a candidate based on what you think you're going to do, right? So, you know, we have had good internal discussions, right, on our council. We're getting to know each other. We're getting to learn about what's important to each other. And I believe strongly that we will work well together. We're not going to agree on things. Let me be clear. That's not the same thing, right? But I have respect for my fellow council members. For example, right, I'm sitting next to Paul, who I actively campaigned against because I wanted Frank to win, right? Frank Urigan, right? But Paul worked his butt off and he earned his spot on the council. So I'm going to listen and respect what he has to say, right? So that, to me, that's my pledge. And I know all my fellow council members will agree with that. We're going to work together, right? That is the biggest, of the things you asked, Taylor, that's the most important thing. And so we get along, because that will help us decide where we can find efficiencies in the budget, right? We're going to disagree on what that means, right? But if we can talk about efficiencies, what does that mean to you? Paul just talked about what he thinks should happen in the downtown. I don't necessarily agree. I'm all on the fiscal sustainability train, right? But I recognize that it's not all going to be my way. So we're going to compromise, we're going to talk, we're going to make cases for why something is important to us, to me, and her, and all the way down the line, right? That is how we're going to try to work together. I don't have any answers specifically what we're going to cut, what we're going to make more efficient, because we're still working through that. But as for people who said out here, hey, we should save on the money, that's my point of view, right? I'm in the camp where we need to wait and see what's coming. Right? There's a recession trade coming down the tracks, folks. I'm sorry, if you pay attention at all to the news, you know, major financial experts, there's all kinds of people telling us that it's coming, right? There's no need to spend this money now. What's wrong with waiting 6 months, 8 months, a year, right? And then we can see where we're at, right? The mayor said at the beginning of this presentation that businesses are hiring. That doesn't tell me that they need money. Now, everybody, if you're a business owner, and with all respect, can always use more money, right? I could use more money, right? You can allocate your ARPA money to me, right? I'd be really happy. But let's wait as a community, right? And see what's going to happen. And as we're doing that, we have this reserve while we decide how to make our budget more efficient, what we can cut, and what we can do without, maybe, or what we can change. That is what, you know, that's my, you know, I kind of went around your question in the backwards way, but it starts with us continuing to grow together as a council and listening to each other so we can serve you better.
to city council a few years ago. And I understand how much work you guys have all put into this. And I just want to thank you for taking these past few months. And even if we don't all agree, I just thank you guys, and I really respect you for doing all this work.
Hi, thank you. I don't have the courage to serve in the public myself, so I respect anybody who does. I understand it's a minefield, and I'm trying to ask my question very respectfully, but it occurs to me, how was $900,000 spent with nobody knowing? Or was there a meeting and I just didn't show up and that's on me?
So I'm hesitating because I don't want to get too in the weeds because I want everyone to understand. Okay, so I hope this is clear. For the 2022 budget that we're currently in, we used that amount of money to balance the budget, basically, to make it so that we had that extra money, so we used it to pay for the services that we're currently, the city is currently giving to our community. Does that answer your question? Okay.
No.
No?
Kind of. I mean, I understand you all are working on our behalf, so it's hard to get consensus. To Rob's point, it's hard to get consensus with 7, much less 170. So,
sorry, you gave me a thumbs up, so I didn't want to keep going in the weeds if you were good, but,
Yeah. So the part of the ARPA program, those funds allowed the city to offset lost revenue. Now, during the pandemic, lots of constructions was delayed or shut down completely. So we lost out on a lot of development revenue, sales tax that was also attributed to construction materials. It's a lot of money. When you look at our revenue, development and sales tax around construction makes up a very large portion of our revenue. So when those ARPA funds came in, finance director laid all that out, said what did we expect, where did we fall short, and we used the ARPA money to even that out for all the revenue we lost, and that's what it comes down to. That's where that $888,000 comes from.
I think that confirms that yes, we should wait, because we had a loss, which we used 800 and almost 900,000 for it, because there was a revenue loss. And now that we see recession coming, costs going up, 8.5% inflation, so we could have more revenue losses, we could have, more things happening. So it really confirms that, what you guys have decided, I saw the voting, what you all have decided, you all have made the right decision.
but that doesn't fix our sustainability problem, because using one-time funds doesn't fix the problem. And that's why I am really adamant about talking about how to invest this money in our community, in our businesses, in our downtown, so that we attract people to come to our community and spend their money, which means the businesses do better and
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
So I asked a question earlier. I've been in Newcastle, my name is Steve Tallman for 26 years. I interact with a lot of people in our community, in adjacent communities, including law enforcement. When I talk with our law enforcement group, I ask them how are things going, and do we have full staff? It sounds like we're still a bit understaffed. And I'm concerned, as crime is one of our number one issues in this country, and inflation number two. How is public safety not what we're discussing tonight, and how to invest and get a good return on that investment for this community?
I'll tell you, public safety is an ongoing cost, and that's why I keep kind of harping on these are one-time fees or one-time monies that we have access to. So that's why I'm really adamant about having opportunities to have
to keep things moving forward instead of just holding it back or waiting, because we do have stuff we need to spend our money on, like you're saying, like police. It's important to have enough money to keep our community safe. And if we're not thinking about the future and we're just holding on to stuff and we're not thinking about how to grow that money in the future, that's really short-sighted. Councilmember Chapman, go ahead.
All right, so the very direct answer to your question, thank you for the question, is we've allocated what our chief of police, Jason Howe, determined was the adequate number of police officers. We've allocated for that in the budget. The truth is, people do not want to be police officers right now. We contract with King County. We paid for 11 police officers. They're giving us 8 or 9 or something like that. So it's not quite simply, it is not a money issue. There are not enough officers. That is where we're at. That's why we're not talking about it here. I just want to make that very abundantly clear for you.
So just follow up on that, and that's fair, but we're talking about finding ways to incentivize people to come to the community to spend money. Why aren't we building more incentive for people to come to protect our community?
So we contract with King County for our police services. That would be under their umbrella. And that if they come to us with an incentive, we can talk about that, but that's not our jurisdiction.
Mayor Newman, what criteria was used to allocate $195,000 in CARES funds to local businesses? Based on city records, I did not find any logic, but rather possible favoritism instead of fairness. The state auditor's report does not describe the allocation criteria and does not evaluate if the amounts paid were fair and impartial.
That was an application process that we advertised.
Wait, hang on. Now, the city has $2.4 million ARPA funds. Taxpayers want a fair and impartial process. Mayor Newman, will you tell us the criteria and process for distribution of the CARES funds and the ARPA funds? Dr. Phil says the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior.
Yeah, the business grants were allocated based on funding we received from King County. I'm not sure the group knows this, but municipal government never received direct allocation from the federal government. It all went to the state, which trickled down to the county, which was allocated to municipal governments in the area.
Well, my question.
I'm getting to your question, please. The grant application process was emergency grant, small business rapid relief program to $5,000 to support our local businesses. If you recall, they were shut down during this time. They were shut down for close to 3 months. The application eligibility located in Newcastle with a public-facing brick and mortar storefront. They had 25 or fewer employees. They were able to demonstrate revenue loss due to COVID-19. They had a valid Newcastle business license, and they were locally owned and managed. They weren't corporate structure. And then we did 2 rounds. We did the first round consisted of $70,000 in September 2020. The second round was November 2020, and that amounted to $125,000.
There was no correlation between the amount of money that was given and the amount of money that was lost. There's no correlation. Some businesses who lost a little bit of money got a large grant, and some businesses, local businesses, who lost a lot of money got a small grant. So that's why there was no correlation from the city document.
And I would say that's probably your perception. We worked with the Chamber of Commerce on this program. And again, you know, the applications, in all honesty, the group gathered here tonight, through a public records request, those applications were gained by members of our community, which is fine. That's what the law allows. But this was all done with a group of chamber members and a group of city staff that helped review the findings of the chamber. They had to meet the criteria. We actually turned down applications that did not meet the criteria. So go ahead and move on to the next question. Nathan?
Hi there, my name is Christina O'Leary, and I am actually a small business owner, one of those who did receive the CARES grant. My husband and I opened our business in 2018. We got 2 years in and then were hit by the pandemic. And my question to you, and for all of you here this evening, is I'd like you to think about what ARPA is for. Is it for a rainy day fund? Now, since the pandemic has happened, there has been multiple governing bodies who have given my business grants, loans, and assistance for the revenue losses that we have suffered. Hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have lost because of the pandemic. And if the city has taken the first $100,000 that they have received to recover their revenue losses, don't you think the next step should be helping the businesses who have received revenue loss, who give revenue to the city ongoing for 10 plus years? I'm not opposed to analyzing and seeing what makes best sense for the city. I'm also a resident. But I think it is on our onus to look at what the spirit of the funds are meant to be used for, to help our city be sustainable in the revenue losses, to help the businesses who gave the state tax dollars, and to then help the community in that tier. So I'm asking you to reflect on what you think the funds should be used for in the spirit and in the proper priority of what they should be used for to help the city.
We actually, first had his hand up, and we actually need to wrap up because we only have this room until 8:30, so we need to wrap this up with Mr. Hooker.
If we have $100,000 in the bank, what kind of interest do we get? And is it true if we have 8.5% inflation, it would cost $108,500 to build that $100,000 dock? After a year, it would cost, say, 8.5% more to do anything that we don't do right now. Do we get any interest on $100,000 in the bank?
Interest rates are very low right now.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm Thorpe McDonald from the Olympus neighborhood. I'm here with my 2 kids because they were very much interested in seeing what the Newcastle Town Hall would look like. One thing I'd like to follow up very quickly on, when I first moved to Newcastle, I was on the planning commission briefly, and I saw many of the issues that we have to face as a city as we grow. I know there's been a very vocal opinion in this room. I'll be the first to say up front that my perspective is the opposite of what's been said here majorly, and I want to kind of make it a point for kind of everyone to consider. The city of Newcastle is approximately 10,000 people, if I remember correctly. Well, I don't know how many of that are voted. In this room, we have about 100, 120. So I think this represents a small, a very vocal and considered opinion. We all have taken the time to come here. But I don't think it takes much to kind of drive around the area and see what happens when you stop investing in your communities. A simple drive to Newport, downtown Newport, is a ghost town. If you take a look at Bellevue, through the pandemic, has continued to invest. So that way, when times get better, you'll be well prepared and ready for that growth. And I just ask all members of City Council, like, I know it's great to think about like putting the money in the bank, $100,000 might get $800 if we're lucky by the end of the year. But like, it's very important that we continue to invest, continue to make the business owners of this community very successful. So that way we get a strong tax base and younger people will want to move here. Because I know people who didn't the investments that we see with Newcastle Commons, Blazing Onion, patio, many great restaurants, facilities, more people are willing to come. So we have a choice that we can all make. We can decide to invest in our communities and see it grow for the next generation, or we could just sit around and be super conservative and become the next unicorn. Sorry for upsetting anybody.
And why only one of our businesses died at the beginning of the first 3 months? All of our businesses are still going strong. What the hell is going on here? Oh, they're not going strong. Okay, but
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for bringing tomorrow's council members to our meeting tonight. Welcome, kids. Okay, again, I want to thank everyone. We've gone over a little bit. I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. It's nice to have an in-person event, and even nicer to have them here at the golf club. Thank you to our staff for, all of
I know, I was glad.